Hey guys, welcome back to Parkitect. In today's video I'm going to be doing the May build challenge. So the coaster that we are getting to build today is a Gerschleier Eurofighter coaster, or as in game it's called the Dive Coaster. So my thought process going through this ride was to make something very close to an actual Eurofighter layout in a way, and kind of just going for that type of look, and also was trying to focus on the stats of this ride more closely than doing the scenery, because the scenery budget was pretty low. $3,500 was the scenery budget, and the whole ride itself was the whole budget that we got was 11,000. So I only had like about 7,000 to kind of build with for the coaster, but I kind of did that closely enough, but it kind of was a little bit of a challenging thing to kind of shoot for. But my objective was to make this more basic, very high stats, so that you can use this in maybe a campaign level or something if you wanted to. But I also had theming in mind as well in doing all this stuff. So the theming for this ride was going to be some type of Viking Norse theming. And the name that came to me first was Nidhogg's Revenge. So Nidhogg is a dragon of the Viking mythologicals. I don't know, mythological. Is that a word? I'm probably saying it wrong. Mythology. There we go. I should say mythology. It's easier to say. So I went for a Nidhogg, and the station is going to be Viking themed. And there's a bonus part where I built a Nidhogg dragon toward the end of the video, because I felt like that needed to be added to this ride, and I did that out of the build challenge. So that was kind of a fun thing, to do these little extra things for the build challenges, like I did with Shark Lagoon last month. And I'm probably going to continue doing that type of theming to just make the ride, I don't know, better in its theming, or better in just portraying what it is, because it's kind of like a bonus project sometimes after doing the build challenges. So after finishing out the layout, figuring out how that should look, I was happy with how many inversions I got out of it. I got, I think, four inversions out of it, because I usually have this issue of building a roller coaster and I just do the minimum. Like, I build one inversion and then I'm done. Then the ride is not really realistic. So I tried to do a little bit more inversions than this one to give it more of a realistic feel and look. And then I was happy with how I got to put in that, I think it was it's not a barrel roll, it's more like just a twist over the last section into the turnaround back into the brake run. I found that pretty awesome that I was able to squeeze that in. So when it came to building the station, it was more of thinking of what a Viking, either a temple or maybe a grand hall would look like. Just thinking about just doing the station, because in build challenges the minimum you should try to complete is the station, and then everything else around it is a bonus. That's usually how I think when I do these challenges. And also to note that construction anarchy is not enabled, so everything here is vanilla straight. So I built everything on the normal elevation system, and all the walls and borders are stuck to the grid, so that was also the challenge too. But I like the little bit of the restriction sometimes, because it gives your brain a more of a exercise on figuring out how to get certain aspects of a building with restrictions. So it's kind of like a puzzle. So I do look forward to these build challenges every month. Pretty nice. So I did some arch things with these the half arched windows, because we don't have arches for that type of wall material. It's like the modern wood look, and so I went for just taking two of those and just kind of laying them over each other, and they adds this extra line. So it's a good way to add some, like, I don't know, definition to the building style, and I was okay with it. So because we don't have every single piece that we should in some of the wall sets, but you'll find some ways to get around that by doing things like that. That's what I always usually do, is take a wall set of that and try to see if I can extend it more. And adding that little wall detail actually adds a lot to the building's personality. The roofing, so the funny thing about this build was, as I was working on it, I thought it looked more Asian. As I was adding things like these square timber cross beams on top of the roof, and I was like, do I want to change the theme right at the end of it? And I was building this on a Discord stream, and some of the people who were watching were like, no, keep it as Norse because it looks Norse. I'm like, okay, fine. I was kind of second guessing myself on the theming entirely, because that sometimes happens when I'm working on a project. It changes themes, or the building reminds me of something else, and sometimes it's okay to divvy off into a different theme if you need to. So that was kind of the weird things that when you build is that happens. So I just find that weird. Right here, very quickly, I made a very realistic catwalk for emergency exit in case the ride stops at that block break right before the chain lift. Just kind of adding some realism, but not too much. I wanted to add a transfer track for a parking maintenance bay, but at the end I didn't have enough room to kind of do it, so the ride doesn't have that. And the last thing I needed to do was to finish the tower here to make it more of a Norse looking tower. And then I knew I had to make a support system for the chain lift because the supports in this game are still wonky and they don't really attach the track properly when it does like a vertical incline like this. So I'm going to fix that too. And I have in strategy of doing build challenges, I have ideas in my head of what needs to be what needs to be finished mandatory, and then what things that are bonus later if I have the resources left over. Because it's kind of, I don't want to give myself a plan because that sometimes stunts creativity, but sometimes having a somewhat of a bare bones plan helps in expecting the unexpected when you're working on a project with a limited budget. So it's kind of a strategy of mine that I've learned throughout doing so many of these challenges. So it's just something to keep an eye on when you're working on it, just to kind of don't overthink it, but also don't be unprepared, because it can come up and sneak up onto you, and you'll have like half a building built and you have no budget, and then you either have to start the whole challenge over again or you send it as it is, and sometimes that hurts. So I try not to do half work, because I feel like half work doesn't show the full potential of the idea that I had originally. So here I did some just basic flag detailings, did some flag decorations on the building to give it some more personality, and then I think I did some decorations on the tower. I tried doing something with dormers that didn't look right. It looked more Victorian all of a sudden. It didn't really portray Viking, so I added shields later just to kind of finish that up. So here comes the chain lift. I was going to originally support it all manually with pillars and borders, but then I realized, well, I need the money for other things, so I just went for the straight wooden supports. And then I knew that I had to make some connections to the track to make it more believable, because I could have left it like this and I felt that would not be right. So I did some connections for myself with some pillars and some square cubes kind of connecting to the track to give it some more realistic look. And then I felt like putting an arch that the train goes underneath right before it drops into the first inversion, and then it just kind of completes the ride. So yeah, it was just something I wanted to kind of give this tower some, I don't know, a Viking look. So there's stone at the bottom for support and a lot of wooden timber of sorts and square timber, stuff like that. So here I'm just doing the connections in between. See, with construction anarchy I would have a little bit longer time because it's the elevation is more flexible in construction anarchy than vanilla, but I do find vanilla sometimes very easy to build in because it gives you that more restrictions of every 0.5. So here comes the bonus build, would be the Nidhogg Dragon. So when working on the layout, I did make a spot empty for it because I knew that I wanted this later. It was just kind of like those, like, I am making this ride named after a mythical dragon, so I need a dragon statue to go with it. So I did this after I submitted the project, and I did this onto a sandbox map, and just went ham on just designing some type of dragon that would be sitting here. This dragon's more modeled after a certain Nidhogg model from the game Age of Mythology, because there's a unit you can buy. It's a dragon. Oh, it's not. You can't buy it. You have to. It's I think it's a god power that you can spawn in a Nidhogg, and the Nidhogg can fly around and destroy things. So I did some research before starting this. I looked at what a Nidhogg looks like. So Nidhoggs are like kind of like, there's like different versions of a Nidhogg, but this one I wanted to make sure that he had giant wings and antlers for his horns, and he only had back legs but no front legs. So it would have been more of a simple, more simple dragon than the dragons I've built in the past. So this is more, I don't know how you would say, it has only wings and then the back legs. Right here was the forming of the body, just taking spheres and kind of just making it look like it looks like a worm right now. And that's the thing about when you build sculptures, is that it doesn't look what it doesn't look what you want it to look like until you get to the final product. So don't be discouraged because it looks like something else. You kind of have to just keep going until you start making features that represent a dragon of some sort. The gray pillars toward the bottom, I wanted to give this dragon more of a I wanted the dragon to be tied up in chains. So those pillars are going to hold chains, then going up to the dragon, or up to the dragon's neck, there will be a collar. So the dragon's kind of captured, or maybe the guardian of this coaster. I don't know. There's something just to give it more interest than I normally would do. And this dragon's more flying freely than the other ones I've built. I built them basically on top of towers, and they were kind of grounded to be more realistic. This one, in this case, I wanted to give it a little bit more of a floating feel and a little bit more of a dynamic pose than having it being on top of a tower or a rock or something. So I decided to go for a little bit more different a position. I think it turned out pretty well in its case. When it came to the wings, I wanted to add some different textures to it. So I used the adventure walls from the new DLC pack. I felt those were really cool to use because it has like this brick texture, but also looks like scarred wings or something, and it kind of worked out for how rough this dragon's supposed to look. This dragon's supposed to be like some rugged beast that's been captured and it's been here a while, and that's kind of what it's go for. The chains, when I got to the chain part, I used the text signs again. I did the letter O, and I just staggered them back and forth, kind of connecting them to kind of represent a chain. I did 2 of them on both sides of the collar. This was kind of difficult to do because of how there's an optical illusion that happens when the chains come out, or when when you use the text letters, because they're kind of invisible in certain angles. So I tried to kind of see. It's kind of a little difficult. Here comes some detailings around the eyes and the head. So doing these little blurbs of spheres adds like textures of scale. It gives the eyes more definition. And then I did some nostrils out front too. The wings, if it looks weird to you, it looks weird to me. I did some adjustments off screen. So those wings that are right now positioned will be moved up a little bit because I felt like his neck was too long. And they felt more sense to be more up toward a little bit closer to kind of make more balance. But it is what it is. So adding some more horns to give it some more, I don't know, some aggression, and then a border would go where his eyes are. I like that it looks like dragon eyes when you put in just slightly in. It looks pretty good. I had some pillars at the bottom of the tail to give some support, so it's a statue of some sort that is out here in a theme park. And I like that it's on the roundabout curve here, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So the antlers was a little difficult thing to do because I've never done antlers before, so it kind of was experimenting and testing of what those should look like, and I made them a little bit too big a little bit, and I had to adjust where they were sitting. That was kind of a difficult thing, but I think I finally got the antlers done. I didn't want to make them too big either, because if we made them too big, then the creature would look weird, and it doesn't look natural, so I tried to adjust where it should sit. So yeah, I make it more go out instead of going backwards, because that would make no sense when doing antlers. I had to go look at some pictures of deer and things like that to kind of get that idea of antlers. But I think it looks good. I like doing these little projects after the build because it kind of extends the playtime of this, and it kind of gets me out of that comfort zone, because after I built this dragon, I went on this Viking theming binge. You might have seen it either on Reddit or the Discord. I went to just build a couple different places and things, and so it was kind of crazy. So here's a POV of the ride without the dragon, so you can see the full potential of the layout. And Nidhogg's Revenge is now in the workshop. Go check it out if you want to. I had a blast doing this, and so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.